they're not actually capturing the slaves. They go and they buy them from people, mostly Arab and other tribes that capture people and then sell them to the port, where then they're shipped in exchange for tobacco, rum and other things. So there's like a network of things that are being shipped around, and as a result, the British become wealthy. But they're also shipping the slaves to the places where they need slaves in order to grow the crops that are then being sent back, and creating this circle of trade. And so Locke is very much in charge of all of this, never physically meeting slaves, I don't know, but he's the one doing all the paperwork, but eventually he's also the one who becomes horrified by all of it. So that's why this little bullet here that says that it's complex, well, it's because his position changed over his career. And while he is talking, though, about slavery, he argues that slaves have been captured, say, in war, where the individual who's captured them has the right to kill them in the war, but decides not to capture them. At that point, that person becomes property and remains property unless the owner decides to give them freedom or sell them, in which case they're still property, right? For Locke, at least initially, a person can become property. The only ones that are in the social contract are the citizens. So when they're talking, like Jefferson talking about all men are created equal, he means us, all of us here in this room. We're all created equal with the king. So King George doesn't have the right to rule us, because we've got this Whig philosophy that says we, the people, have the right. Well, they're not talking about their wives, not talking about juvenile children, they're not talking about slaves, they're not talking about a whole lot of people, actually. They mean us educated at William and Mary College, individuals who own plantations. We have the right to tell George, go yourself, which they did, essentially. And of course, George didn't. What rights? I didn't give them any rights. So this is two models of state governance, and they're a straight clash, right? That, of course, ends up with the War of Independence. And notice that while it's often called a revolution, in a lot of ways it wasn't, because the same status quo was kept in the colonies. The same wealthy plantation owners kept their positions. They just removed the controls that the British had over them and over trade and things of that sort. But the essential cultural climate of the colonies remained very much what was already British, right? That way. Or if you were in New Orleans, French, or in Quebec, French. So there was along the Lawrence River, it was French, and so on. So there's some interesting differences there. But so slavery initially was understood that individuals were not all free to be citizens. If they were property, they could be treated like property. In fact, all the way up through the Civil War, and really, God bless you, in a lot of sense, still today, a lot of people might still feel that certain individuals shouldn't be treated as equals. For, apart from the horror of it, hilarious reasons. Those are clearly not good reasons, right? I'm reading the article this morning, and the argument is, Israel keeps saying, because of the attacks on Israel by Hamas and Hezbollah, the very life of Israel is at stake. The that the state of Israel has a right to protect itself. And the question was, what do you mean by that? Now, lots of states are come and go. There's a whole history of states that come and go. So who gives states rights? Who gives individuals rights? Who says who's in the contract? Well, these are all part of the problem of the social contract theory, right? When you develop this social contract theory, who are the individuals that are the citizens that are creating these contracts and saying what rights I have, right? And who's allowed to be a member, and so on. And our contemporary actually is not a contemporary anymore because he's dead. John Rawls. If we're looking at a contemporary American philosopher that is concerned with social contract, and rights and things of that sort. His book, A Theory of Justice, is still one of the two courses you would have to take in graduate law school. And his other book is Political Liberalism, this book here. And so John Rawls is usually two separate courses in graduate school when you're studying law, right? And what is the concern? Well, we have to update what we mean by a citizen. We have to update what we mean by this social contract. And when we're creating new laws, we have to update it. And on what basis are we going to do that today? What was my... anybody know what the quiz question should be today? Shoot. And I can't stick around today. I have an appointment that I have to go to. Sorry, I didn't have it in my mind. I usually have the quiz question in my mind right from the beginning so that I can answer your question when you ask it. So should we go on to the next one then and ask that question? I don't know that I actually have covered what we're talking about here. Lord Shaftesbury was the person that John Locke served. That's about Spinoza. Well, I can ask you to look that one up. Look up Spinoza and see if you think that Spinoza is right, that God must be everything. Spinoza is a pantheist. Everything is God. Everything. So look that up and see what you think. That could be all right.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry if I was confusing today. Does that make sense the way
Yeah.
I kind of tie lots of elements together, but
No.
have a good, what day is today?
Tuesday.
Have a good
I was just wondering for the essay at the end of the semester, the paper, that's like due right, like that's pretty much like our final, right?
Well, I think I call the final the third test, which is not really any different than the first and the second test.
Yeah.
But the term paper is 25% of the grade,
Right.
and it's 3,000 words, so it's the longest piece.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it due at the end of the semester, like the
Yes.
last day? Okay.
Well, I think I usually say like the week before.
Week before, okay.
Because I do have to read all these, and if you get 3,000 word papers and you've got a week to read them, it's...
That makes sense. Okay, I'll start. I was wondering when I should start working on it.
Have you picked someone yet?
I think C.S. Lewis. I know he's typical, but I know you wanted someone current.
Everyone likes him. It's good.
Okay, thank you. Have a
All
good
right, you too.
Yeah, I was curious how